Postecoglou has been relieved of his duties.
We can't make a decision based on emotion. We have to think about the long-term success of the football club.
I think it's an admittance of failure.
It does feel like every manager, we kind of break everybody.
It seems to me that just constant rebuilding.
All roads, I think, very much lead to Thomas Frank.
The ambition is always to want to be better. Always to want to improve.
I think we can all see that Thomas Frank's been waiting for that next step.
He came from Southampton. Yeah. He had no European pedigree. Thomas Frank has shown us in the Premier League he knows how to steer the ship.
Touched in by Tony, and Brentford may just have stolen all 3 points at the Etihad Stadium.
It should actually identify a certain longevity, but also having a winning formula side as well.
If he doesn't finish top 40, if he doesn't win the trophy, well, how come Ange's got the sack if he doesn't?
But he's going into a good squad of players.
Daniel will be expecting certainly top 6 finish at the worst.
Next season, Thomas Frank, I think, have a good go at the Champions League, try and win the FA Cup, try and win the Carabao Cup, and also, minimum, finish in the top 7.
Thomas Frank has officially been appointed as the new Spurs boss. The German signed on a 3-year deal ending 7 years at Brentford after Daniel Levy triggered his release clause of between £9 and £10 million. Let's hear from former Spurs boss now, Harry Redknapp, who spoke with us about what he's expecting from Frank at Spurs.
Daniel will be expecting certainly a top 6 finish at the worst. I mean, and hopefully get another trophy. Yeah, I mean, as you know, Jeff, they've gone for an awful lot of good managers recently. You look at Conte's gone elsewhere and won titles again, and Jose, and there's, it's just one after the other, really. And he's got high expectations, and he won't be happy unless they're up there really pushing. He spent a fortune on the stadium, the training ground. He feels now, obviously, that they should be up there, and that certainly looking, really for a top 4 place, probably. That's what he'll be expecting.
Of course, Thomas Frank is not German, he is Danish. I apologise to Thomas Frank, obviously still thinking about Thomas Tuchel's here.
An absolute disgrace.
It was an absolute disgrace, Jeremy, yes. And was it all my fault? Who knows? We'll get to the bottom of that later. For more on this story, let's welcome in Chris Cowlin from the Spurs Chat podcast. He's a regular here on talkSPORT2 and, of course, talkSPORT. Chris, welcome. Great to talk to you this Friday afternoon. What's your reaction to Harry Redknapp's comments there?
Dan, good afternoon. Yeah, of course, the expectation is always for Spurs to be finishing top 4 or even top 6. But, the club statement, I think, said it all. It is crucial that we are able to compete on multiple fronts. And they believe that a change in approach will, change that. But I believe that the board do need to back the managers a lot better in transfer windows, because, let's face it, over the 10 years, we've been pretty close to great things and trophies and success. Of course, Ange Postecoglou delivered that last month in Bilbao and then was fired. And you've only got to look now that, we've had 18 managerial appointments in 24 years that Daniel Levy has been at the football club. I do feel like there must be a change of approach, when you're appointing manager after manager. And we have gone down that, win now route, like Harry Redknapp just said there about Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte, and they weren't successful at the football club. However, I do feel very optimistic about next season under Thomas Frank now. I feel like it is the right appointment, and I feel like he will bring that calmness to Spurs that perhaps we need, because, of course, the football sometimes under Ange Postecoglou, although it was entertaining a lot of the time, certainly when he was first appointed in those opening 10 games, but we did lose a lot of matches, 22 league defeats last season. That wasn't good enough. No. But of course, it was a very, very emotional night. It's been a very emotional couple of weeks, that parade. It was unbelievable, goosebump moment, 200,000 plus fans there. It was incredible. But, Spurs have made the change. There's no time for any fan to be emotional about these changes. We've just got to move on now, and hopefully the board back the manager and we can progress and win another trophy in the near future.
I'm with you in thinking that it's a sound appointment from Tottenham, and I really, really like Thomas Frank, and all you can do is admire the job that he did at Brentford. For all the good, and I think there's plenty of good here, whenever a new manager comes in, you do always have slight reservations, and there's always things that you can look at and think, oh, maybe that's not going to work. And one of the things I think about when I think of Thomas Frank going into Tottenham now, They're going to be fighting in multiple competitions, in the Champions League, which is the premier European competition, and Thomas Frank doesn't have any experience of that. And when I think actually of Brentford, obviously now a stable Premier League team, have been in and around it for 4 or 5 years now, but they did never really take the cup seriously, whereas I think Tottenham fans have got a trophy now and they want to continue that winning feeling. Have you got any reservations around those things that I've mentioned?
Yeah, I don't know whether that is the right term to use about not taking it seriously. I just feel like every single manager that has been at the football club cannot fight on all fronts. No. You know, like the football club want the managers to do. It's not realistic. You know, last season with the amount of injuries that we had and not buying in enough experienced players in the summer transfer window, in my opinion, Ange wasn't able to fight on all fronts in the Premier League. And once that European spot had almost, disappeared via the league, he went all in on the Europa League and delivered, not only a trophy, but of course European success, Champions League football for next season, and that Spursy tag removed by a lot of opposition fans, including our own fans at times. But I believe that, like I said, I think that Thomas Frank will bring that calmness to Spurs, and he's done a fantastic job at Brentford. And when you go back to the season before last, he suffered 21 injuries at Brentford, 11 surgeries, Tony suspended. And, he's never, ever had Brentford sitting in that relegation zone in the 4 years of his tenure at Brentford, which is quite incredible for, the lack of resources and the lack of funds and budgets, etc., that he's had at Brentford. So, when you look at the job he's done, every single challenge, he's overcome every challenge. He's done an extremely good job there. He's so well respected by everyone in football. I haven't found or heard a bad word said about him. And what I think Spurs fans will absolutely love from our new manager now is his tactical flexibility.
Yeah.
Which we haven't seen for the last couple of years. But I was a huge fan of that Ange. I wanted it to work. I'm so glad that he delivered a trophy in his second season, as he said so often. But full focus now is on our new manager, and hopefully he does well and he gets the players in, because I feel that this is so important. When you go through 18 managers in 24 years, you've got to learn from mistakes at board level and across the football club. You've always got to learn from mistakes, even in general life, not just football. So, I hope that the football club do learn from their mistakes, and we know that there's been a little bit of a shake-up at board level, that a lot of people are going out the door at the moment, a lot of new personnel are coming in. But I just hope that overall the manager does get backed and we get the players and then we can fight on all fronts.
Are you encouraged by the fact that Thomas Frank's already got a relationship with Johan Lange? I mean, I imagine it's one of the reasons Thomas Frank was identified in the first place, is that relationship. Do you think Frank will get a big enough say in getting in the kind of personnel that he wants? And if he doesn't, I guess he's shown at Brentford that he can actually really manage well with the players that he already has at his disposal, because he improved so many at that club.
Yeah, that's right, Dan. I believe that, he's got a great friendship with Johan Lange, which does certainly help. I think it's really, really important that, the last couple of days, the announcement has been, delayed because of all of his backroom staff, signing for Spurs. And I feel like that is really important as well, because they're a real, tight unit, close unit. And I feel like that's really important to bring to Tottenham. And him having a say in the transfer market, I believe, is really, really important, because he has identified some great players over the last couple of years, and all of these players have been unsung heroes. They're not been superstars. They don't go out spending big money. So, he expects his players to work extremely hard, and all of these players we've seen over the past 4 years in Premier League football, that all of these players have delivered and given a lot more than is expected of them.
I guess you'll be keeping a keen eye on Brian Mbeumo, who flourished under Thomas Frank. Manchester United still the favourites, I believe, but would you be keen to see Tottenham try and hijack that deal? I imagine you very much would.
Absolutely. We need players like that. We need a really, really good window. I can't stress that enough, of what a good window Spurs need. We've got a really good squad. We've got a lot of young players coming through the youth system, and we've got a lot of young, really good talent in the likes of Bergvall, Gray, etc. And I just feel like with a few really good top additions in this window, if Spurs go strong, we could really push on. And I believe that, these last couple of weeks, of course, the reaction from the Spurs fan base is always very mixed when it is a major decision. There are a lot of people that are upset about Postecoglou going out the door. But, you need to get behind the manager now, and we hope to see the manager get what he wants. And like I said, I feel like he should have a real big say in the players that are coming in the door.
Yeah, in terms of outgoings, Romero's been linked with a move. Would you be pro him going? Would you think that's something that's going to happen this summer?
I think probably he wants a move, given the comments, within half an hour of the Thomas Frank appointment, within half an hour he's thanking Ange Postecoglou, and then, giving a huge dig to the board. Of course, we saw the dig that he gave the board a couple of months ago as well that the football club wouldn't have been happy with. But, will someone pay the money that Spurs want? In some way, we need to worry about us going forward. We can't ever worry about one player. At the end of the day, it's about the football club moving forward. It's never about one player or one manager. So, as long as we have a really positive window, I can't see anyone of that quality replacing Romero. But, of course, recruitment is absolutely key. This is what you have top staff for. This is what you have the scouts and, the data guys for. So hopefully they can identify some top talent to replace these guys if they do leave.
Yeah, I've got to say, if Romero did go to Atleti with Simeone, it would be absolute box office. It would be incredible to see those two link up, wouldn't it? And no, my producer's in my ear saying about Emi Martinez going there as well. I'm not going to entertain those discussions today.
I was going to say, Dan, the reports that I'm seeing at the moment, though, is they don't even want to pay £40 million for a player of Romero's quality. When Messi comes out and says Romero's the best defender in the world, then you need to pay top dollar for it.
Yeah, I don't think 40 million is going to get them too far for Romero. You're definitely right there. Have you got any kind of priority positions? Have you got one position that you think, yes, that's absolutely where we need to upgrade? That should be Thomas Frank's initial direction of travel?
Well, I believe that in the last couple of years we've needed a top-notch number 6. Who's out there? Who's realistic? But in all honesty, I believe that we need to strengthen across the board in all areas. Striker is another one as well, because Richarlison has been injured so often in the last couple of years. So that's whether he'll go out the door this summer remains to be seen. We'll see. But across the board, because we're playing Champions League football, we know, of course, the first competitive game for Thomas Frank is PSG. So that is going to be a very, very difficult game. Of course, they tore Inter Milan apart in the Champions League final. But, across the board, because we've got to have that depth, not only for domestic competition, League Cup, FA Cup, but Champions League, you need top quality players. And when you're playing, Wednesday, Saturday / Sunday every other week, then it's really important that you do have a very, very strong squad.
Yeah, you've just spoke about your respect for Ange Postecoglou. Can I just ask you, where do you think he's going to go next? Would you have a level in mind that you think Postecoglou would end up at, or a country? Because he's an interesting character. Whatever you think of him, he did win a trophy for Spurs. He was a man of his word in the end as well. Would you think he'd ever come back to the Premier League elsewhere?
I do, actually. I feel like he's got a point to prove, especially after those 22 league defeats. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see Ange Postecoglou in the Premier League again. But I feel like Ange Postecoglou, although we lost 22 times in the Premier League, I feel like he can hold his head up very, very high. He's rubbing shoulders with Bill Nicholson and Keith Birkinshaw in Tottenham's history of being one of only 3 men to guide Spurs to a European trophy. So he can hold his head up high and be very proud of what he achieved.
Our producer here, Jeremy's a Leeds fan. I'm just going to suggest it and throw it out there and see where he's faced us. Postecoglou in Leeds feels a good fit to me. That feels like something that could happen.
Pure fabrication.
No, he's not happy. He's shaking his head. He's not happy with it at all.
Bielsa-esque again in the Premier League, yeah.
I think Postecoglou in Leeds, I think he'd be one of the early favourites if Daniel Farke was to go early on in the season.
That's pure fabrication.
No, he's not having it at all. Do you agree with me, Chris? I think that's a decent fit.
Yeah, like I said, I think that, to see him back in the Premier League, I think the Premier League is actually going to miss him with, all you guys, like even at talkSPORT, you're always going to get a decent quote and a funny quote from Ange Postecoglou, yeah.
I think some of the guys that go to the press conferences won't miss him. In fairness, Chris, I think he had a frosty relationship with quite a few of them. Chris, I'll let you go. Thanks ever so much for talking to me today. I really enjoyed talking to you. Take care, mate.
Cheers.
Right. You're listening to talkSPORT2 Social with William Hill, 18plus gambleaware.org. We've got Twitter Corner next. Should Manchester United go all out for Victor Gyökeres?